All right, hey, and welcome back to the HODL Review. It is now 8:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Jeff. We just did one run through. Apparently we were streaming, but my technology over here says that we weren't. So now there we go. Now it looks like we're safe, we're good, and we're streaming according to all this. Carl Lewis, the first one back in the room. We've got WB with a little bit of Chinese bamboo. I appreciate you when you come in and join in on the chat session. I'm sure Auburn Rain will be bouncing back in here momentarily. So, it was waiting me or me waiting. You've been waiting since yesterday after we got off the XRP Minute, and Carl Lewis has been hanging out, waiting, and just to make sure that the HODL Review came on again. And it was funny in one of the chats on Twitter, the Great Pate, I'm going to give you a quick shout out. The Great Pate mentioned that he was waiting for my next name change, being that we did have a previous name, and now we are the HODL Review. And I recommended that the next name that we use is going to be HODL Up. So if you guys like that, we'll be switching that up to the HODL Up. But anyhow, so tonight we're going to start a deep dive into Nexo. And before we get into Nexo, wanted to get into some of the other developments. And we did have some recent updates and developments from Cred. And I thought that was actually it's interesting and exciting because of what they're offering. But yet now what we're starting to see is a little bit of competition in this space, which is even better. So obviously there's been a ton of news. So before we get into talking about Nexo, before we get into looking at my Cred again, there was a bit of news on Twitter that Ron Heyman, of Congressman Warren Davidson's office, one of the key backers of the Token Taxonomy Act, as far as a legislative assistant, out there every day, grinding away, meeting with other congressional representatives, meeting with their legislative teams, and trying to get the Token Taxonomy Act in front of Congress, through the Financial Services Committee, in front of Maxine Waters, in front of Nancy Pelosi. There was so much that Ron was doing, and he just got hired. He just got taken by Ripple. So there seems to be like there's some amazing things on the horizon, some amazing things that are happening within this space. Obviously, you know, there's that push in government for regulatory clarity, but when you see an organization like Ripple that seems to be on Capitol Hill quite often, an organization that has been taking on the behemoth Swift, really beating it at its own game, creating a solution that most said, you know what, there's not going to be a new solution for, and they're on the forefront. They're on the front lines of what's needed in the digital asset space, and on the front lines fighting for regulatory clarity, because more than anyone else, if you look at all the digital assets out there today, to date, they are really one of the very few, if not the only one, that has put together a solution that has real world utility, that's actually practically being used in a real world space and solution, not just based on the blockchain technology, but also based on a digital asset. So I think that is, you know, really meaningful. Now, when we're looking at banks and we're looking at the blurring of the line between banks, exchanges, what's actually happening in the digital asset space, that's what really interests me. That's what excites me, because it's really, you know, it's a pipe dream from people, maybe you know, the Bitcoin maxis of their day, that somehow Bitcoin was going to do away with all banks. That's not a reality. That's not how the world works, and there's so much more going on. But what we are seeing is that banks are getting more actively involved in the digital asset space, and the digital asset exchanges are getting more actively involved in banking. And that's what my Cred, that's what Celsius, that's what all these other organizations out there look like, and that's what's happening. Nexo getting involved in lending and borrowing. We're starting to see that with Binance. We're going to start seeing that with Coinbase as they ramp up. We're starting to see that with organizations like Gemini, and then you see traditional banking, although they're lending out and and paying out interest on fiat, they're nowhere near able to do that yet with digital asset. Yet we're starting to see these same entities on the digital asset exchange side that are actually offering up interest paid on fiat currency. So I guess let the cards where they may, and that's interesting. So Carl Lewis, the stream has stopped. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. All right, WB. So I got to take a little personal note here. Yeti YV is still the only true Yeti coin. Now I do have to disagree with you on that. As we know, there was only one Yeti, and it was the original Yeti. It wasn't the Yeti Baby, and it definitely was not the Yeti YV. And there's only one true Yeti, and that's Yeti. So Vet Bro, good point. Not your keys, not your crypto. That does make a good point. When we get into looking at Nexo, there's some primary criteria that I look at if I'm going to identify and just to put it out there, none of these organizations, I'm not an ambassador. I'm not representing any exchange. None of these exchanges at this point in time are sponsoring any aspect of the HODL review. And anything that I've reviewed, there's no monetary stake involved whatsoever. But at the same point, I also want to put it out there. I'm not using any of these investment tools in the digital asset space, meaning I'm not staking any of my digital asset for interest, and I'm not borrowing any digital asset or any fiat based on digital asset holdings at this point. I haven't used Nexo. I haven't used Cred. I haven't used Celsius. I haven't used any of them. But I find it very interesting to see the development in the space. But I thought it was important that I put that out there at this point. Wildstar, if you have more than 2 followers on Twitter, like me and tweet. Oh, tweet that Jeff is on. Yeah. So definitely, if you could do a big favor on this, definitely throw this out on Twitter, and that would be great. So also, if you've just bounced in the room, if you haven't given a thumbs up yet, go ahead and give a thumbs up. And if you're new in the channel in this space, definitely subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you've already subscribed, go ahead and hit the little notifier bell. Even though when I was on the XRP Minute watching yesterday, based on the YouTube algorithm, it wasn't popping up on my recommended watches. Every other things were popping up, but XRP Minute wasn't. So I'm really wondering about those algorithms on YouTube. All right, let me, Leo Bandera. How are you, Leo? All right, Vetbro, I hear you. I've thought of using things like this, but personally, I wouldn't risk the bulk of my crypto. Can't wait for ADA staking, though. Interesting. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Now, there's a small group of us here this evening. What I'm going to try to do, I'm going to switch over to another view. If we get cut off, I'm going to bounce back on in that view. But I'm hoping that everything was cleared up when I fixed all the technical glitches here and reloaded OBS before. But I've been hesitant to do this. And this is moving to the live stream or the live view, whatever we want to call it. And I'm getting ready to hit transition, and hopefully I'll still be there and you guys will all still be with me when we do it. Ready, set. All right, now let's see if it continues, if it didn't continue. Anyhow, I'm back live, and hopefully you guys are still here with me. And I don't know if you are or not, but we'll find out here in a second. So it says that I'm streaming. I can only anticipate that I am streaming, and let me see. Yeah, there we are. Perfect. All right. So we went off briefly. Still here. Everyone's still here. Awesome. All right. That didn't really work as planned, but hey, great, Pate. We are getting ready to review Nexo. So let's go over here. Before we get into Nexo, what I did want to look at was Cred, was my Cred, and this announcement that they had recently, which was right here. Cred, I have Cred. We have some big news for the XRP community. Cred has raised the rate on XRP back to 9%. So you can earn up to 9% on your XRP through Cred Earn on Uphold. So if you go to Uphold, you go to Cred Earn. Through Cred, through my Cred, you can earn 9% on XRP. So that's interesting. And anyhow, that's the development right there in that space. Now, we get into it. It wasn't on Cred. I went into Cred. It's only in the Uphold. So we don't really need that there, and we're going to move on. So let's get into talking about Nexo. Let's try to make this short and sweet. Let's see here. Get out of this. And here we go. All right, so Nexo. So it's interesting because some of the no, I like that. That's hilarious, Rain. So here we are with no. Better than any bank account. Yeah. So one of the key points, and I did I shut this out? I didn't shut this off yet. Okay. So when you get into looking at Cred, and I think it's interesting, when we reviewed Cred, we talked about this before. Look, we're not just anyone. We hold the most comprehensive insurance policy in the crypto lending space. Cred goes above and beyond with insurance coverage, and they go into locked in. Not only are they using locked in, so they're also using BitGo. And we're going to get to next. So I thought this was just important to point out. So here, that's our minimum. We have up to 100 million maximum coverage. So that's pretty good. Where's the maximum coverage stated? Also, what percentage of the assets are 100 million? So Cred never lends to short sellers. It's obviously an annually calculated rate on XRP, paid in dollars or stablecoin. And so yes, it'll stay at 9% for the duration of your lockup period, which is 6 months. So these guys are really out there, out in the front, showing what they've got. Now we get into Nexo, and some of the key points here: earn 8% interest with 100% asset-backed guarantee. I think all that's important. So again, some of the key points here. Auburn Rain, I don't know. That's was it natural? I don't know. It's hugging the coast of the United States, and it's heading towards North Carolina right now as we speak. So, so better than any bank account. If you guys remember when we looked at Celsius, one of the things I didn't like about Celsius was the fact that they were kind of bordering on being a little political with the whole 99% thing. Here again, better than any bank account. That's what this is all about, is that whether it's Celsius, Nexo, Cred, or any of the others, what's really key here is that the focus is better than any bank account. Let crypto work for you. The only insured account that lets you borrow instantly in 45 flat currencies. So it's not the only insured account, as we know, but maybe it's the only one that allows you to borrow in 45 fiat currencies. So I think that's interesting. You earn interest daily on your idle assets under Nexo. With Cred, the percentages calculate a little different. But what I would also like to look at in this scenario is, what is the tie-up? So if you are going to be putting any form of digital asset into this space, so here it's instant crypto credit line. Now, typically it's a 2-for-1. Someone asked me before, they have a whole explanation on how they calculate your collateral that you put up. We can look at that. When we look at earn interest, The only mechanism, so let's put this out right up front before we get into is it insured, which it is. Before we get there, let's look at, very simple. You can borrow. Now, when you borrow, you're going to stake against, you're putting up for collateral. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Nexo, XRP, Binance Coin, Litecoin, or Stellar. So they have a small grouping of digital asset that you can put up as collateral. Now, when you're going to borrow and earn interest, this is really what everybody wants to know. What can if my digital asset just sitting there and I'm interested in taking it out of my ledger, I'm interested in taking it out of an exchange, I want to put it someplace where instead of it just sitting there, I want to earn interest on it. So that's what we want to know. Now, right now, you can't earn interest on pretty much anything. You can earn interest on euro or on stable coins. And that's it. I got to believe you can earn on Nexo. But right now, based on what I'm seeing here, Bitcoin is soon, Ethereum is soon, XRP is soon. So I was a little surprised to see that because I distinctly remember there being access to this before. So, I don't know what that's all about. But compounding interest is paid out daily. Withdraw assets at any time. So, like Celsius, you're not tying it up for 6 months. So when you go into Cred, you're staking for 6 months. You basically put it in, and you're getting a very similar interest rate return. Here, it's being paid out daily. So that's kind of nice, and it's nice that you can pull it out at any point. High yield savings, passive income, no fees, spend at any time. So that's nice too. We'll get into the Explorer in a minute. The instant credit line, obviously this is where you're borrowing. Now you're going to pay, I'm not going to say a ridiculous interest rate, but you're definitely paying an interest rate. So here you have interest from 8% per year from no minimum repayments required. That's nice. Guaranteed approval. So as long as you can put your digital asset there, you don't have to worry about credit checks, no hidden fees, flexible repayment. This is really a great option. People, if they need money, instead of going out and selling the digital asset, instead of going to a bank to try to borrow money, which isn't great, put your digital asset up. You're basically paying yourself back, although you're paying a little bit of interest. So interest from 8% per year. So especially if you don't, if you're really in need, and someone that is maybe struggling a little bit on with their credit, you don't have to worry about a credit check. So that's interesting. Now let's look here. Let's look at the interest and the custodial, because I really think that this is one of the most important parts. Obviously, knowing how they do it, what you can put up, all of that. This is critical. And so, like we saw with Cred, with my Cred, you're able to. They're covering for a very significant amount. So up to $100 million. That's what their custodial assets are covered up to. Now they're utilizing BitGo. Now, obviously, if they are holding more than that, then we probably want to worry a little bit. However, by the London-based insurance company Lloyd's, with its syndicate of underwriters which act under its umbrella. So that's them. So they're utilizing BitGo for encryption, for cold storage, and they're insured based on utilizing Lloyd's. And the premium service comes in at no additional cost, which is great. So again, $100 million insurance provider through Lloyd's, and there's no cost for that insurance. So this is obviously all the reasons as to why, the custodial crypto asset, what it's insured, why it needs to be insured. Obviously, there's a lot of things that can happen. It's important that they have it. It's also important to understand BitGo. So BitGo, being that they're using BitGo as the custodian, this is really key. And we're starting to see that BitGo is really the custodian for most of these quote unquote digital asset banks. So, and maybe I shouldn't even do quote unquote, because basically they're digital asset banks. If they're holding your money and they're paying you interest and they let you borrow, they're basically banks. So it's key to know how are they securing your digital asset that they're holding, and this is it through BitGo. Now, obviously, if something happens to BitGo, then it's a whole nother story. However, they're still carrying coverage through Lloyd's. So just like Cred, my Cred is using Locked-in, they're using Lloyd's. BitGo is backed by Goldman Sachs and incorporates cryptocurrency security standard level 3, which is SOC 2 compliant. Now we'd have to look that up because I don't remember exactly what SOC means, but that's important, obviously. So then you have the CCS level 3 requires multiple actors for all critical actions, advanced authentication. So what they're saying is that it's very secure. Here's the SOC2 compliant, audit by Deloitte. So being audited is key. They need a third-party auditor to come in. I think that's important. So they've got everything in order. So when we look at professional bank mechanism in place, Nexo and Cred, my Cred, are really side by side offering the same type of feature, security, and that's all very, very relevant. So instant crypto credit line. So here it's showing us that you can really tie up a lot of your digital asset, is what I'm seeing here. So I don't know what the other one was, but this is your instant credit line, and here's all the different digital asset that you can put up against it. So I don't know what the other one was showing us. Here you have earn interest on US dollar, euro, and pounds, as well as earn interest on stable coins. So if you're able to put your dollars, your euro, and your pounds in here, we want to know that it's protected, that it's insured. If anything ever happens to Nexo, that you're able to get that money out without any issue. And then the next thing that we see here is the Nexo Card that they really promoted and hyped up, which is also a little bit different. The Nexo Card is allowing you to quickly access and spend your digital asset. So the question with this is, here it's access your your credit line. So you get the Nexo Card. This is how you're accessing your credit line. So let's say they have their algorithm, but let's say it's 2 for 1, and we'll pull it up here. How does it look here? But so you put your digital asset there. They put your fiat currency on your Nexo Card, and then you can instantly use it immediately. So it's available for spending right away. Virtual cards, payments in local currencies, no monthly or annual fees. So this is another way to say, hey, you know what? If you have a way to pay it back and you want to do it through your bank, you don't want to use, and this is interesting. However, you got to, balance this out. But let's say credit issues, you don't have a credit card. You need to use a credit card when you're out shopping, whatever. You don't want to use your debit card, but you want to use a money type card other than your bank account. So this is an option too. You put the digital asset up. You've got the card. You can go out shop. You can immediately pay out your digital asset that they're holding. Now the problem is you got to pay 8% for that. So, but if so different things to think about. If you needed a month or something to pay something off, maybe this is a good way to do it. A little bit of 8% interest. But that's I guess the whole point. You order it in the mobile app, whatever. Use it 40 million merchants. All right. We just read all this. So there's basically, you're getting a credit card. It's not really a credit card, but no transaction fees. I think that's important. You can track all your purchases. No surcharges at point of sale, no inactivity fees, no account maintenance fees, no hidden fees, no foreign exchange fees. This is interesting. So you could get hit when you use your credit card. Some of your credit cards don't have foreign exchange fees, but some of them do, and you end up paying out fees on your purchases just for the exchange. So here, there's no exchange. You put your $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever, and you just want to have something a little more secure. Maybe when you're traveling, maybe there's an option. I don't know. You get cash back up to 5% whenever paying with your Nexo Card. Interesting. 5% cash back is pretty nice. That's not bad. It's kind of offsetting the 8% interest that you're paying also. So the cash back is instantly deposited into your Nexo wallet, increasing your available credit line balance. So that's pretty cool. So you get 5% back. I kind of like that. So for every 100 you spend, you're getting $5 back. That's pretty cool. State-of-the-art security. Let's see, get early access, not available yet. So proud to provide with the best card, get early access. I don't know if it's available. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. A lot of this stuff is just but it's an interesting idea. So let's see, what do we want? Okay, earn interest. Let's go to earn interest. No, let's go to credit line. Let's see, how do we get to it? Come on. All right, let's go to earn interest. Let's see if they'll let us in without logging in. All right, here we go. Let's see if this will explain a little bit. The only crypto banking account, 100 million insured, licensed and regulated financial institution. Interesting. That's important. Licensed and regulated financial institution. High yield savings. No fees, add, withdraw at any time. So that's the other nice thing about it. So you're paying 8%. You're investing your money. You're able to use it. It's an interesting option. Nexo, the largest and most trusted lending institution. They've processed 700 million. They have 250,000 users, 1 billion in instant loan requests. Why earn with Nexo? They have 8%, earn 8% interest per year, significantly higher than traditional bank accounts. Yes, it is significantly higher. 100% asset-backed guarantee. Your funds are secured at all times. Compounded interest rate that's paid out daily. So that's interesting. So if you're compounding and paying out daily, so that every day a larger interest amount is credited, that's interesting. I like that. The experienced team. They're audited by a third party, by Deloitte. That's important. I don't know if I've seen anyone else that's audited. I don't remember seeing that on my Cred. If they're audited by a third party, I think that's really important. 10 plus years of fintech success. They've been around for a while. Nexo, powered by a leading fintech group serving millions of people across Europe. You're strictly supervised by multiple European banking and financial services regulators. That's important. Obviously, they have KYC and AML. They're using Onfido. So let's see what that is here in a minute. Onfido is trusted by Coinbase, Revolut, HSBC, Nationwide, TransferWise, and Bittrex. Okay, how it works. Open your secure personal or business Nexo account. So you can open a business account. That's also interesting. So from a business perspective, if you look at the typical lease, if you need to take out a lease, let's say you have a significant amount of asset tied up, just thinking outside the box. If you go to take out a lease on capital, obviously you can write it off in the US. I don't know about other countries. The typical interest rate right now on capital goods is going to be anywhere from, maybe 4.9% up to about 7%. That's good. You go to your bank and it's a whole different story. So you go to a lease provider versus a bank, and it's an interesting dynamic. The fact that you can have a business account and you know that it's an 8%, it might be worthwhile. You're getting 5% back and it's 8%. You can pay it off at any time. Most typical loans will have a prepayment penalty. So most leases that you take out on capital, I'm talking about capital goods, there's a prepayment penalty. So a prepayment penalty means that whatever the interest rate is over the term of the lease, that's what you need to pay back plus. So that's definitely a negative. Now, if you know your interest is only 8%, typically, at least on capital goods, you want to pay it off in five years plus. Here's a scenario, it might be a little shorter. You can keep rolling it over, but an interesting dynamic is opening up here. Start earning high yield passive income. Nexo versus everybody else. They're going to show banks. Look at the crap with the banks. So yes, can you get a higher interest rate than anyone else? Maybe you take $1,000 fiat, buy their Nexo, their stable coin. You put it into Nexo. Maybe you don't take your digital asset because it's it's not available. Well, for the loan, it is. But if you're gonna borrow, but if you want to earn interest, you can't earn interest right now on any of your other digital asset. So you go get a stable coin, and you got $1,000 sitting in your bank account doing nothing. Maybe it's worthwhile trying it out, and that gives me an idea. Maybe it is something I gotta try out. Forget about moving digital asset over there. Take $1,000, buy a stable coin or a Nexo, whatever, and try to invest over there and see what happens. 8% annual interest rate, free online instant. Oh no, wait, what is this? What are we? I don't even know what we're looking at here. We're on the earned interest. No fees. Obviously, there's fees everywhere else. Residents only. True. So here it's locked up for a year. I don't know about that, but here, yeah, you're gonna access to funds is instant. I like the fact that Nexo's not tying up your funds like the others. Available only for deposits up to 100,000 euro. All right, so let's see here. Forget what is. Am I eligible to earn? Is my money secure? Are Nexo rates actually good? Do I lock it up for a fixed period? No, Nexo is, it's all about flexibility. You can add and withdraw funds at any time. I think that's interesting. No fees or commissions. That's huge. Are there minimums? The minimum USD to your Nexo account is 1,000. So top up transfer to your Nexo. We aim to lower this soon, and a maximum of 2 million per transfer for larger accounts. So that $1,000, I kind of just pulled it out of the air. Apparently, $1,000 is your minimum. Where does Nexo get the money to pay? That's interesting too. Everyone says, where are they getting the money? How can they pay 8% when everyone else is paying 0.5 of 8%? Nexo is the world's largest, most trusted. All right, they keep pumping them up. Yes, we know all this. Here, okay. All funds that you put up with Nexo go towards the financing of new over-collateralized loans with insured collateral. In simple terms, for every $1 we lend, we receive at least $2 in insured collateral, making your investment virtually risk-free, but it still doesn't explain how they can pay, how they're paying it. So, all right, my question's not answered. What should I do? Go to their help center. Nexo in the media. All right, let's see. All right, let's go to this guy right here real quick. On FIDO. What is it? Identity verification at the speed of light. This is helping you and your customers. Compliance is for AML, KYC. Twice the power to catch identity theft. Compliance made easy. Cloud-based and scalable. Global or local, we're trusted. Look at the Bitstamp, Revolut, Orange, Zipcar. So it's interesting. A lot are using non-FIDO for their AML and KYC. I think that's interesting. So I just wanted to pop over there and see what they were all about. All right, let's go back up here. Okay, cool. All right, let's go back to, let's look at, see why Nexo gets us what we want. Let's see. It's not getting me what I want. Let's see here. Nexo token terms. Why is Nexo issuing tokens? There's a whole thing to read about it. Their dividend token. Interesting. Typical ICO token. So here, category utility token with multiple utility features. Issuer successful fintech team. Product, live product, use of proceeds, funding crypto-backed loans, expanding the Nexo community, interesting. Value drivers, Nexo's loan portfolio. Clients repay interest on their loans at lower interest rates when paying with Nexo. So if you get Nexo tokens and you're paying back in Nexo, you're gonna pay less interest. So I think that's interesting. Nexo tokens can also be used in the Nexo account to obtain instant financing based on the token's value and interest. All right, all this is really interesting. Dividend paying and asset-backed token. Nexo token holders receive 30% dividends from Nexo's profits. That's insane. So you can get your paid dividends are paid periodically and distributed proportionally to all Nexo token holders in BTC, ETH, and or Nexo tokens. So it's interesting, or USD stable coins. Nexo tokens are backed by the underlying asset in Nexo's loan portfolio. Here's their income flow. Interesting. 70% reinvested. They're definitely making money. They're paying out money. Net profit, 30% go out in dividends, loyalty dividend, base dividend. So there's money to be made just by holding the Nexo token. So you hold the Nexo token. It's like putting it up in a bank account also, because you're going to get dividends on that hold. Interest discount. So increased loan amounts. There's a ton of stuff here. The standard is an ERC20 token. Nexo is based on ERC20. Whatever you want to feel about that. Token distribution, investors overdraft funding, max supply. Talk about that. Let's look at that real quick. What is this? 525 million to investors, circulating supply, subject to vesting. Overdraft funding reserves. Founders and the team have 112 million. 48 months vesting quarterly. Total 1 billion. So it's interesting. 100% of total investors. 52.5% of Nexo tokens will be distributed to investors from the Nexo token sale. 11.25 are with the founder and team. Community building airdrops. Advisors and compliance. That's interesting. This is, I mean, all of this is great. What's getting me right now, though, I guess a couple things. One, this is still kind of in the early stages. Two, as things change and you're getting paid out in a digital asset, you're kind of paying back in a digital asset. And I start thinking about, taxes. So now you're actually paying tax if there's a realized gain somewhere. Are you reporting? You're borrowing, you're earning, you're getting Nexo, you're getting paid out in fiat, or you're getting paid out in digital asset. And are there tax implications with all this? And then how is that being reported? So right now, if you go to what is it? If you buy digital asset on Robinhood, so the digital asset, you don't actually own that digital asset. You've invested in a digital asset. They're basically investing for you and holding for you, but it's treated more like a stock. So it's really easy to buy and sell. So if you're into buying and selling digital asset and you're trading, I should say. So from a trading perspective, if you're using Coinbase or Uphold, doesn't matter who you use, every transaction is a taxable event. At least we know if you're trading and you use Robinhood as a platform to trade the limited digital asset that they have, they're tracking all your taxable events just like you're buying and selling stocks. And it's going to be reported back to you, one platform, one simple form, because you never actually buy the digital asset. So it's reported from a tax perspective a little different. That's the one thing that always gets me, is trying to keep track of all this stuff. So and WB brings up a good point, because that's another concern that I have. the same concern that I had with Celsius is how is Celsius paying out 80% of all of their revenue? And so, here's, WB brings up, can they actually afford to pay for all of these attractive schemes? And that, who knows? So is that long-term viability? How long is that going to last? The one thing that I do know, the banks, obviously they're paying out at 0.5%, but when you go to borrow money from them, if you're going to, you get a mortgage or you're just going to get a loan, you're paying, exceedingly higher than what they're paying out on your savings. Even if you try to tie it up in bonds or anything like that, the interest paid out to you is minuscule. And if you're into bonds, those bonds are typically going to be long-term. You get into mutual fund investing, that's different. But, I'm just thinking in terms of the bank direct borrow and loan. So really interesting. So that's really important to really identify there. Let's see here. Let me back up. James Ryan, they've already paid me $250 dividend payment on my Nexo tokens. Dude, that's not bad. I like that. So James Ryan has experience using Nexo, putting up Nexo token and getting a dividend payout on the Nexo token is interesting because they're also using whatever they're holding. They're generating revenue off of that. I like the fact they're able to pay dividend. That's fantastic. That's really, really important. Just bouncing up in the stream here. Everyone's talking about the storm. XRP, Connie, glad to see you on. Same thing with Spanish Fly. I see you popped on as well. Sorry, I'm looking down on my phone, so I don't have anything up on my screen to actually look at the stream or the chat as it's going through. We got Matt Richter in here. We got Peru Crypto in here. So this is it. I want to go through. We reviewed Celsius. We reviewed MyCred. We've looked at Nexo. I've talked about BitTrue again in the past. I think the next one I look at is going to be BitTrue. I definitely want to refer and talk about their ambassador program. I haven't spoken to anybody personally that's an ambassador. If you're listening to this, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the payout is on the ambassador. I think if they're not paying and they're just giving people a title, that's one thing. But I believe there needs to be full transparency on what BitTrue is doing, and to have people running around claiming to be an ambassador without transparency, I think is dangerous, from multiple levels. I made that statement before. I'm making that statement again, and I would like to know more about that. So, and I'm going to look into it, and then we're going to review it, and we're going to talk about it. Let's see, James Ryan, I'll wait a bit longer and monitor their performance before I park my XRP with them. Agreed. Yeah, Auburn, yeah, I know that Bones is one. I know, there's a number of people out there that are. I'm going to reach out to him before we review. I want to get some feedback on it, and then we're going to talk about it. But I think it's important to address in terms of, because they're next on the list as far as exchanges, again, because I talked about it. I want to go back and talk about it because they're doing things a little bit different than the traditional exchange that we're expecting, like a Binance, a Coinbase, an Uphold, or others. But yet, the final thought on this is that blurring of the lines, crossing the banking line. So banks are going to be here to stay, whether it's in a digital asset form or in a fiat currency form. Fiat currency is going to be around for a long time yet. It's not going anywhere. Traditional banks are going to be needed. Digital asset banks are going to be needed. We're starting to see that crossover. We're going to continue to see that crossover. The question is, at this point, who is going to be out on top? Who's going to buy who? And that is the unknown variable right now. Are we going to see Nexo pop up everywhere? And you think about this from a perspective of what Amazon did to retail. Retail didn't go away completely. Retail is still there. And then Amazon actually is buying brick and mortar facilities like Whole Foods to really establish themselves in different markets and control different markets. They need brick and mortar facilities all over the place to guarantee next day air. Amazon needs transport and logistics in order to deliver their goods. So in a sense, they're almost moving to some form of a brick and mortar model. I bring that up because you look at banks, digital assets, you might start seeing this blurring. Look at Capital One. I think is a really interesting example because Capital One, which had bought out Ing, got into the online banking space. Ing was bought out by somebody, and then they were bought out by what did I just say? I just spaced out on the name of the bank. I don't know why I just spaced out on it. Was it Capital One? I'm thinking Cred. I couldn't get Cred out of my mind. So Capital One, interesting. They're opening up coffee shops that are banks. So Capital One is trying to stay relevant. Capital One's trying to do new things. Ally Bank, I think, is all online. Yeah, Ally Bank. Yeah, Ally's online. There's a whole bunch of them that are online now, but Ing kind of started that initiative. There might have been others at that time, but it's this brick and mortar digital online battle that's going on. Personally, I like the one-on-one concierge feel with anything. I don't want to wait in lines. I don't want to deal with the person that doesn't know a damn thing about what you're going to talk to them about. That was one of the big downfalls. I think of let's say Best Buy, which is still around. You go in and you know more than the person standing behind the counter about what you're asking the questions. But which is why a lot of people turned online. Then you go online, you're like, oh, I want to go and touch and feel the product. You're in banking, you can do all this research, but then you get an online interaction, maybe video engagement, whatever it might be. But then Capital One goes and they start opening up coffee shops. And if you guys haven't been to one, it's interesting, because they have decent coffee. And if you have a Capital One card, you get 50% off all their products. And you walk into it, you swear you're in a coffee shop. You could be in any coffee shop. They got the baristas, they got the leather sofas, they got people working on their laptops. And then if you go towards the back of the coffee shop, they have some glass offices and conference rooms. And first come, first serve. If you're a Capital One customer, you can go in there and work. You can go and have a conference in their conference room. And if you need to speak to a banker, which there are a couple on the floor hanging out, drinking coffee with you, they'll sit with you on a leather sofa, or you can go use one of the offices. I walked in, I thought it was really impressive. So interesting stuff is happening. Maybe we'll see a Nexo brick and mortar pop up somewhere, or a Coinbase brick and mortar pop up somewhere. A little concierge type thing when they get into mortgages and all of that. So that'll be interesting. So anyhow, that's it. That's my take on Nexo. Next, we're going to dig in a little bit more into BitTrue, and I guess I will be doing that on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. One final note, OTC will be rolling out soon. We did postpone the launch. There were a few other things we had to get in place. There were some delays with Labor Day and then delays with the storm that came through, and we took that delay to actually fine-tune some of the things that we're working on to roll it out. And I know you guys are gonna love the final product when we get it out there. It's absolutely amazing the way it's coming together, and so that's what I'm gonna say on that. But it will be coming soon. Well, Farshad, man, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Interesting, he has a good comment here. I've been using BitTrue. I'm super happy. Very low fees. And if you like Binance, you're going to love BitTrue. I liked Binance. And so, that's why I think it's good that we'll check out BitTrue. again next, do a little bit more of a deep dive. So glad you liked the show, Farshad. And with that, do you trust their Power Piggy? I like that, WB. That's a good one to finish off the evening with. Do you trust their Power Piggy? You know, that's the big question of the day. And so, whoa, I don't know what all this is. Let's see here. Hang on. You're popping up too quick here. These are some good comments. Just getting ready to sign off, and all of a sudden you get these big comments popping up. Win-win time. Thanks for your reviews. Does 8% interest on deposits seem sustainable? If I put 100K XRP in as a deposit, current value 26 cents, should XRP hit 100, do they pay 8% on that balance as well? I think they pay based on what you put it in with, but you can take it out at any point. But that's a really good point. As it goes up, maybe they do. Well, if they're paying out interest and the value is increasing, I'm wondering how they value that out. That's a good point, and I don't, Farshad, I don't know if anyone knows that answer, but that's a good one to look into. I'm definitely going to look into that. James Ryan, the negative is Nexo, is that if you want to repay a loan from your bank account, they still use the slow, expensive SWIFT system. Interesting. I contacted them and requested that they use Ripple's X Rapid. Good thinking. And they really should be. I mean, it's silly that when you have Ripple and you have RippleNet and you have X Rapid, you have the full solution in the blockchain space, and Nexo, who's in the blockchain space, isn't using it. That's ridiculous. Win-win is Nexo available to the USA and Texas. Don't know. That was something I was looking. I didn't find that. I was looking down in the help section, and I didn't see anything pop out as far as where it's available, where it's not available. Since we're talking about that and we're getting ready to wrap it up, I might as well answer it. Let's see if we can find that question real quick. That's really good because yes, I don't know, and it's not. I don't see anything here either. Don't know. I don't know. It should be here, and nothing. So let's look here. Let's see. Let's just type in Texas. Let's see if Texas comes up. See, nothing. I don't know. That's another good question. So I didn't find anything on that as I was searching around here. So those are great questions. Auburn Rain, I saw you. Okay. Thanks. I keep 10% of my XRP on Uphold. I've been thinking about joining the interest program. Well, that's interesting. You know, if you do, definitely let me know. If you use Cred or my Cred, I've looked at it. I've thought about just trying it out. I mean, there's no loss, you know, putting $100 into something just to see what happens. People are getting benefit put into, buying up some Nexo token, getting paid out dividends. Again, you know, it's not, you know, all this stuff we're doing is speculative anyways. So you're not going to tie up a huge stake, but these guys have been around a long time. So I see the transition. I think it's interesting. I really do. So with that, it looks like DNI is on. Look, DNI, what's up, man? Good to see you here. I'm not sure if you're getting ready to stream at 9 o'clock. If you are, this is going to be your huge send-off. Everybody go watch DNI because he starts streaming in right now, actually. So that's it. Again, that's my take for this evening on Nexo. Look forward to seeing you guys back on Saturday morning. Before then, you guys can check out Auburn Rain on Friday at 8 o'clock. And I believe the XRP Minute tomorrow, Thursday, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you guys later. Have a great night.